Welcome back, shot callers, to episode 2 of Discover, Design, and Delight in Your Own Personal Masterpiece. Stefan Labas is the owner and founder of Labas Fitness Coaching and works from the gorgeous Belvoir Hotel in our hometown of Rüschlikon, Switzerland, overlooking Lake Zurich. As for those of you who weren't listening to the previous episode, we wanted to remind you a little bit about Stefan's background and get you prepared for episode 2 of this series. In the last 15 years, Stefan has focused on tailor-made personal training and coaching of entrepreneurs and executives, in addition to his work as a master trainer of personal trainers. So today we are going to just dive right in and hear what Stefan means by meeting with myself and what is being the CEO of our life and our body mean. Stefan, tell us.
Thank you for having me here again in episode number 2.
Yes.
Well, you know, as I made my experience and education over the last 30 years, of course, I've been always coming across difficulties of goals, achieving goals with my customers, or even achieving my own goals, you know. And out of that, of course, I realized and I developed all the time some new strategies to really be aware of what's the most important thing, what's the essence of really, if you want to achieve any goal, doesn't matter if there are bigger goals, you know, on the environmental, or if it's on wealth, goals on wealth area, or if it's the goals on our own health, fitness, and lifestyle areas. So
I like that, the essence. That's a good term. And it reminds me of something you said in our last, I'm just looking for my notes, which was our balance sheet of energy.
Income and outcome.
Income and outcome. So that kind of, I guess, fits together.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is it's all connected. It's all connected, and the strategies and the system works for all concepts actually the same. And what I mean by that, it's, for example, for our own health, most of the time we don't take as much awareness or priority as we should. Most of us, we just running in our, like, I like to call it like a rush hour, because we run and run and run 1,000 things that you have to do. You work with your kids, you work with your partner, you work with company, you work with all 1,000 things, but kind of we forget ourselves most of the time. And as older as we get, though, especially after 20, 30 years, between 30 and, let's say, between 30 and 60, the life becomes really in a very high pace, very high speed, like in this treadmill of running and functioning and doing things, and start losing a little bit the overview of other things which are very important of our life, which is, for example, ourselves. Like, because in a certain way, we are the CEO of our own body, of our own health, of our own life. And what I mean by that is, as a CEO, for example, as a CEO of a company, of course, you're aware of, okay, you have to check the budget, you know what you do, you have your vision, your mission, you have all the statements that you are doing, and you always reviewing them twice or 3 times a year. You sit down with a couple of people, checking all the figures, seeing how did it work the last year, how much income we had, how much outcome we had, and where do we want to go the next year. So you always do that with company, but we're kind of forgetting that we are also a part of that, and we should also treat ourselves like that. And that's what I realized out of a lot of coachings and trainings with my,
and also your struggles, right? Your own personal struggles.
And also my own personal struggles. Of course, I also did mistakes on that. So we always do mistakes everywhere all the time. We just should be aware that we're not always doing the same mistakes all the time, over and over again. So we kind of should come into a mood of learning and developing and trying to become better.
Do you think also it's human nature that we don't change patterns that are not good for us until they become too much of a problem to ignore, especially our health and but also our relationships as well.
Yeah, I
We
think
put them on
definitely.
autopilot because if you're eating chips and French fries and drinking a lot of wine in your 20s and 30s, it may not affect your sleep. It may
Yeah,
not affect your skin. It may not affect your your energy levels.
yeah,
But all of a sudden, at some point, and this depends on each person out there, you start to feel the cumulative
yeah, exactly.
sort of I don't know, destruction might be a bit of a hard word there, but the accumulative negative of all those behaviors and patterns. And then it's much harder to undo that. It's
Yeah.
much easier to put these good behaviors in place to prevent from going down that road. I mean, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I
But
believe.
definitely, no, you're right. And because of what happens is that we come in that kind of an autopilot, which we
Mm-hmm.
are, which we are more reacting than we are acting. Acting means you know what you do, you're aware of your current situation and you act on something. Reacting, of course, means at the other hand side, we're just running behind things and we're doing things and we cut in the different circles of routines on things
Yeah.
that we do. You eat always chips in front of the TV, that becomes a routine. You get used to that and you do it all the time. And as longer as you do it, as more complicated it becomes to turn it around and change it. And
I'm reading a book about habits right now, Atomic Habits. And there's this scientific
circle.
kind of circle where
Yeah.
it's sort of you have a cue and you repeat it, and then you have a behavior and then a reward. I think I hope I got that right. Anyway, you have to just change the cues. You can't just start with changing the behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you keep always circling in
Yeah.
the same circle, and you never can break out of that and change
Yeah.
something. And
Yeah.
one of the most important things, it's for all of us, and doesn't matter if for your company, if it's for the world, or if it's for our own health. One of the most important things is that we become aware of where we are at the moment, like the current situation. But the most important thing is, for example, really to be aware of the current situation. Because, for example, if you have a car and you have a navigation system, and you want to go to, doesn't matter, if you want to go to London, or let's say to Berlin. London, it's a bit too far. Let's say Berlin. You want to go to Berlin,
And it's
now
Brexit.
it's also far, but now you put all the dates into your GPS, Berlin, and it calculates all the street to there.
Coordinates, yeah.
Coordinates. So what the most important thing is to coordinate, for the coordinates to come to Berlin, is to know exactly where you are right now. And all the time when you drive there, it always have the connection with the satellites to say exactly where you are. Because if you don't know,
if you need to,
exactly. Because if you don't know exactly where you are, you will end up driving somewhere complete the wrong direction, or you're making a circle, so you go over Paris to turn around to come to Berlin, which is not. You can do that, but if you don't want that. So if you want to go the direct way, you need to always knowing where you are right now at the current situation.
I used to use a similar analogy my entire career when I was managing money, and I would meet with clients 2 to 4 times a year, depending on circumstances. And I would say, look, here's your roadmap. Where you want to go at 20 is going to change when you're 40. And so you check in with me and we look at, have your goals changed? Has your financial situation changed? And then we'll reallocate the portfolio based on any changes to your risk and reward scenario. And then I send you out the door and you go back and you live your life. And then you stop at the petrol station. It's just the portfolio management office. And you say, okay, am I on track? Do I need more income? Do I need more risk? Do I need less risk? Have I just had a child? Do I need, so I used a very similar analogy. I think that's a great way for people to think about it, to keep it from being overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. And breaking, so being aware where you want to go and being aware where you are right now and breaking it down in little steps in a
Yeah.
way. And always also being aware of, okay, you start driving and you're still far away, you know, and you can't expect by driving 10 minutes that you can see already the
Brandenburg Gate.
the TV tower of Berlin, because you will not see it.
Yeah.
10 minutes driving from Zurich, you will never see it then. So you need to drive, you need to trust on your navigation system, and you need to trust on your capability to drive. But you need to drive for a certain while. And the same thing is, of course, for our health. So if you change something, and if you're not aware that it may take a little time to really change something, it does take time to change something, and you stop already or you change direction, you drive around you drive around in circles all the time, and you never get wherever you want to go in your health or in all the aspects. But for example, now I'm talking about health. So if you want to lose weight, if you want to increase muscles, if you want to become fitter, less stressed, less tension in your body, whatever the goals are.
Yeah. So give us probably your top sort of 3 reasons why to do this, just kind of bullet points. Why, what are the most important reasons behind doing this? I mean, you kind of alluded to this, is it being more efficient to do it this way, right? So you're not running off in different directions, but even stepping back from efficiency, why do you think that this is such a powerful thing or tool in somebody's life journey?
I think because it's one of the essences. I figured it out for myself, and also, of course, by achieving my customers' goals. It just gives you the bigger picture of something. It gives you the bigger picture, first of all, which is important. And it gives you also a very profound foundation of achieving something, because we are mostly get stuck most of the time on the little things, on plans, on what do we want to do, like today, tomorrow, maybe this month. And it's hard to stay on track. And that's what the most people have problems when I talk to them, somehow, because I'm stuck in some kind of stupid routine or stupid things, so I can't change. I know what I should do, but I can't change it. And one thing that really helps to change whatever you want to change is to have the broader perspective and break it down into goals. And with the concept I develop, it's like meeting with myself as a CEO. As a CEO, you have meetings with your board. You have meetings with your executive people. And in that time for yourself, you need to have a meeting with myself. That's why I call this concept meeting with myself, and not just this month. So I should have it for the whole year, and like acting instead of reacting. Because the second point, what people always have all the time, it's time. So they say, yeah, I know what I should do, but I'm kind of struggling. And the second thing is what they say, like, yeah, if I would have time, I would do it. But right now, at the current moment, I'm not having time, because 10 projects are running, and maybe next month, or maybe in spring, maybe in summer. So we never have time, but we need to make the time for ourselves. We need to make the priority and the time. And that's why it's good to have a map. I always use a year map, open it, and then I plan 4 to 6 meetings with myself, and I put them already into my agenda as an appointment of 4 hours. And that will help me to achieve, to be always aware of the overview. And even because the thing is, if things go right, then it wouldn't need that. But if things go wrong, which all the time that happens, you start something, you want to achieve something in your health, you start training, you start eating the right nutrition, and after 2 or 3 weeks, you blow up the whole thing, and you lost track.
Right.
And if you don't have a backup plan, you will not get back on track again.
One of the things I've been thinking about since we first talked about this concept of meeting with myself is that I think that when we have systems in place, we don't need to use the emotional and mental energy to decide on a daily basis what we're going to eat or who we're going to spend our time with or what projects we're going to work on. When we've got our bigger priorities set out. And I also want to say to people, this isn't all just about your health. This is also could be you want to have a better relationship with your partner or your children or your mother or your church. It could be any priority that you really think, gosh, I never have time for that, but it's important to me. And so what happens is we get busy, unimportant things take over. And then when we haven't prioritized certain things, and we also don't have systems in place, which is my big thing for the year is putting systems in place, whether it be who's going to make a meal. In our household, I make the meal on Monday. My husband does it on Tuesday. We have sandwich night on Wednesday. Yeah. So it takes the emotional, and all of a sudden I'm not scrambling at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock running. What's food here? What do we need? We try and plan it. That's just one mini success that we've had. There's multiple other areas where we haven't systematized and we need to. But I was just thinking it gives you some emotional strength because you know what your priority is. And I'll stop talking. But one thing I heard that really comes back to me often is that if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And I fall by that. Sometimes I say yes to a lot. A coffee with somebody who is genuinely someone I'd like to see and network with, but I don't look at my schedule and I always think I can do more than I should do. And I can fit it in, but then I create stress and anxiety and, I got to go to this place and that place. So I think to myself, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to something else. Am I saying no to my workout? Am I saying no to a walk with my dog? Am I saying no to dinner with my kids? So anyway, I was thinking that the meeting with myself is also a way to give you emotional strength and take away those micro decisions that weigh us down.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, let's talk about the how. Let's talk about your process.
Yeah, you're right. Because there are, so what I want to say to that is, because the most important thing that's difficult for most of us is like the distractions that we have. And we have outer and inner distractions. The outer distractions are for example, your mobile, WhatsApp, Twitter, all those things. So SMS, the bing, bang, ding all the time. So those are the outer distractions that we all the time have. And the inner distractions are our own mind who distracts us all the time and keeps us away from being focused on staying on track and want to achieve something. So the outer and the inner distractions are very important to understand. And if you have a plan, like the meeting with myself, it's not just a meeting with myself and I'll think a little bit and just make some thoughts about my life and see, okay, well, let's see where it goes. So I'll really make my mind up about my current situations in my life, because again, then you have your plan, you start and you were distracted by 1,000 other things, and to come back on track again and not losing it. So you are maybe, so it's difficult to point out the most important things. You maybe write down some things who are not that important. But if you bring first movement into your body, for example, that's why I always use the meeting with myself 4 hours. And the first hour in these 4 hours, I use, for example, as a movement. So for example, I always walk up to the Uetliberg, which is the mountain here in Zurich straight away. It takes me about an hour. So I take my backpack, put my paper inside my backpack, and I walk up that hill, which takes about an hour. And after walking for a while, it connects your mind and your body. Yeah. And your subconscious mind opens, and when you're up on the mountains, then you're really fresh. You're fresh, you're relaxed in your body, and then you can write down the things that they are the most important for you right now, because there are always 1,000 things, but what are the most important things for your life at the current moment?
Stefan, can I just stop you there for a second? Because I want to get a little bit granular in the process. Yeah. So first of all, I want to know really kind of exactly what you do. So
Yep.
and then we can get into the details of it.
Yeah.
So first of all, are you in December, sometime
Yep.
in December, looking at the year?
Yeah.
Get your calendar out and you
Yep.
say, okay, here's my dates for the next year. Is that like, do you have a fixed time where you plan out first of all, the calendar meetings?
Yeah.
Like what do you start with? Where do you start? Just kind of quickly.
I start with the calendar. That's the first what I do. I open the calendar, and then I'll took, let's say in the beginning, I personally always take a Friday afternoon because it kind of fits very good into my week. It's the end of the week, and then I can use that. I always take the Friday afternoon. I open my calendar, and then I choose, because then I can see already where I have meetings, where I have things going on, and I choose
kids holidays
one,
and things like that.
Put holidays and everything, and I put this 4-hour peak into my calendar, and I copy it, and I do the same thing in April or May, in June, July, in October, November. I do those 4 meetings with myself. I put them already into the calendar.
Okay. Do you then have a process to prepare ahead of time anything for that meeting? Could be physical preparation, could be that there's a book that you're reading, or do you have anything like a worksheet that you take with you that's a standard worksheet so you don't create something new each time you have your meeting? What do you pack for that? How do you prepare for that 4-hour Friday meeting?
So for myself, I figured out I'd like to have a very soft structure. A structure, but a soft structure. So you could also prepare yourself for a certain topic that you want to address now. You could also do that, preparing yourself. But I, for example, just take a piece of paper and I cut it into
quadrants.
Quadrats, 4 quadrats, and every quadrant it's one topic in my life. And one quadrant is nutrition. The second quadrant is active relaxation. The third paragraph, it's movement, not exercise, gym, just movement. And the fourth quadrant, it's mental fitness training. And then I make first the current situation for myself. So the actual situation. For example, in nutrition, I have a plus and a minus. I'm just writing down for myself on my own observation. It's not about if that's right or wrong, or if you have the right strategy right now. Just for myself, I write down, okay, now the last 3 months or 6 months in nutrition, what I felt for my own feeling, I have done good, very good. And what do I have done not as good as I wanted them? So I drank a lot of water, I did this, I did that. So just very neutral, writing it down. What was good and what was not good, plus and minus. In nutrition, in active relaxation, which brings us the active relaxation, I call things that you do that brings you, how can you say that? That brings you Ruhe und Gelassenheit, which means peace and calmness.
Yeah.
But something that you do, and for example, if you drink a bottle of wine, it probably also brings you peace and calmness. It's also nice, but if you do it all the time, of course, it's not. It should be a healthy way of peace and calmness. Something that brings you really peace and calmness, and brings you peace and calmness, because it's the most important aspect to reducing stress in our life. Yeah. And stress is the biggest hassle for the most of the healthy aspects. Even losing weight or achieving anything, stress can block everything from the chemicals. So that's why active relaxation has a big part, peace and calmness, to achieve peace and calmness. The third part is movement. And by movement, I just mean like, okay, because it's either people move too much, they run around the whole day, running forwards and backwards all the time. They have, 20,000-30,000 steps a day. And other people are busy, on job people, they have 2,000 or 3,000 steps. And here it goes just about a rough awareness of, okay, am I belong to someone who has 20 or 30,000 steps? I've seen everything with my customers. Or am I someone who has only 2,000 or 3,000 steps? I don't like too much of all this exercise stuff and the movement stuff. It's not about exercising, but it's about, so we know that movement, it's a part of our body. So our body needs movement, our organs, our system, our lungs, digestion, everything needs movement. And if we don't have the least amount, and the WHO, the World Health Organization, says it should be 10,000 steps a day, I wouldn't go too crazy about if there are 10,000 or not 10,000, but to have the awareness on the movement. Am I having enough steps? Am I having enough movement in the way of mobility? Because mobility is also a part that keeps us flexible in our body and flexible in our mind, because the body, it's the mirror of our subconscious. So if we are flexible in the body, we're also more flexible in the mind. And the third part is if we move, so the third part could be strength. So if you too relaxed and too weak, so there is not enough strength, and the strength doesn't open your posture, for example, then people sometimes can also have problems with self-confidence and with pushing through. You know, if you want to achieve something, you also need to be strong. So the movement part can help you physical and mental on that part. And the fourth part, it's the mental part. And the mental part could be something really very simple. You don't need to read 100 books before that. So it could be just something, for example, the mental part, something that means something for your heart, for your feeling, to something that makes you happy, for example. You know, really something that makes you totally happy in your life. What the last 3 or 6 months did I had in my day, in my week, in my month, that really gave me happiness, made me feel good, made me, you know, because we have this thing of you need to do 1,000 things. You need to bring the kids to school. You do this, you cook, you do that, you do this, and then you lose you lose a little bit you lose
the peace and the calm.
Yeah, you lose the peace and the calm, and then you don't do anymore anything for yourself that really makes yourself happy. Sometimes you do things that makes other happy, your kids, your partner, all the others. But what's about your own happiness, your own heart? And with the mental part, I would focus that a little bit. What gives you pleasure,
and peace?
What gives you pleasure and peace? Just yourself, not the other. A little bit egoistic maybe, but just for yourself.
Watching videos with little cute pigs and goats cuddling together is, you know, a top pleasure experience for me. I love animals. So when I see the cute little, you know, ducks and turkeys and, you know, dogs all playing together, that's my little joy.
And on that part also, it could be something on the level of spiritual meaning. And with spiritual meaning, I mean something that just touches your heart. Sometimes you can't, it doesn't have to be a religion like going to a church. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Just something that touches your heart, doing something that it feels just very good for yourself. For me, example, I'm a little bit a Buddhistic person, so I love the Buddhistic approach, the Far Eastern approach. I love to listen to Sadhguru, for example, which is one of the biggest the spiritual guy all over the world. I just love to listen to that kind of stories. I love to meditate. So that's my spiritual fuel station where I get my inner. That's good.
Yeah,
just my good feeling, you know, and other people doesn't need to understand that. They don't need to agree to that. For example, my wife, it's not 100% the same than me, which is good.
Not.
Okay.
That's completely okay.
But that's something that you really need to do for yourself, for your own inner peace.
Okay. So you split it into 4 quadrants. We do the plus and the minus, which I think is a great idea because you're not getting you're less likely to feel bad about yourself if you're also seeing the positive things that you've done.
Yeah.
And it's often cumulative. And then you've told us the length of time for these meetings. You've kind of set yourself about a 4-hour time block. And I suppose that can be nuanced depending on the person. Someone might want to take 24 hours and go away and really, take that time for themselves. But I think 4 hours is probably the minimum, really. I would imagine that you really want to invest in yourself.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Like 4 hours is the minimum. Maximum you can do more. But and what is also important, that was maybe your next question about how to do it. And it's also important that you do that only by yourself. I mean, you could take your dog with you, but not a person that can talk.
Yes, nobody can talk.
You should do that by yourself, because the first hour, what happens is the first hour when you walk, we all know that the first hour when we walk, the only person that talks to yourself, it's your own mind. So your conscious mind keeps talking to yourself, blah, 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 about all the things that happen, that go on in your life, all the 1,000 things. And if you walk and listen to them for a while, after a while, your mind told you everything that it wants to tell you. And then it becomes more quiet. And when it becomes more quiet, the things come up who are really more important to you, from your heart, from your soul, from your feeling. And those are sometimes the points who are really important in your life also. Not only the things that you have to organize, what's the meeting, what with the kid, to achieve. So really the things that mean something for you.
Well, I think that's why I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of the granular how, because we can just talk about the why in all the grand things, but the micro decisions and the micro actions, like doing a walk first, is exactly, you're sort of hacking that natural tendency of ours to get caught up in our head. And by walking for an hour, or if you're a jogger, or even if you're a swimmer, maybe you go to the swimming pool for an hour before, that for a lot of people, that's meditation. People who swim say, I don't think about anything. It just, my mind goes. So it can be very personalized, but it sounds to me almost scientific that you do this, some version of active meditation in a way. You're just letting the thoughts go. And it's important because people need the tools to say, okay, how can I try to do this myself? And so, okay, so you've got the time, you've got the first hour, you've got your piece of paper. And then do you just sort of let that flow, however long that time takes to do your quadrant? What's your next kind of activity after you've done the plus and minus? Then I guess you're thinking about what's next, maybe. What do those next 3 months look like for you?
Well, first of all, as you said, like the walk. Second of all, writing the things down by not judging it.
Right.
Of good or bad. Try to get rid of feelings of, oh, that was not good. Just writing it down. And then I make a little break.
Okay.
Means I'm not rushing into a plan at the same second. So I'm just taking a plate. For example, if I'm up there in the restaurant, I take a tea.
Sure.
I just let my thoughts go on a little bit. Just let them go wander a little bit, because then sometimes interesting things starts to, you just mind walks around a little bit. And what's interesting, it starts to grab something and you start to be aware of that, something which is most of the time important in your life just right now. And what happens then is that's what happened to me. And I think what is also great, you start to become also grateful for things that you have achieved or that you have done, or things that you really have in your life.
Yeah.
So an
gratefulness
attitude,
is a massive contributor.
So you're nurturing an attitude of gratitude, as we call it. And this attitude of gratitude, it's so very important, because otherwise you run your whole life and one day it will be finished.
Yeah.
like for
For
every one of
sure.
us.
We know
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
And
We
then
all know the ending. We just don't know how and
we
when.
all know it will end. We just don't
Yeah.
know when.
And how.
Then and how. And then it's ending, and you think like, okay, wow.
Shit, why didn't I do that?
if I would have paid more attention to the moment, or if I would have more appreciated certain little things in my life, I maybe would have been a more happier person. It's not about a positive and negative view of things. You don't have to make things nice which are shit in your life. You know, you need to see the facts as they are. If things are not going well, you need to face them. You know, it doesn't mean you should see everything very good. You don't need to see everything very good.
You call that toxic positivity. Not everything's positive. It can't always be positive.
No, you don't have to, you know, but you still have to be aware. And if you be aware of things in your life, it makes you that attitude of gratitude. And that's something what we talk about in the next series, the goal setting series, because the attitude of gratitude, the gratitude part, it's very important for your goal setting process. And that's why I actively do that in the meeting by myself. So I write down the things, then I relax back, and I just let my thoughts a little bit flowing by, hey, wow, okay, that's interesting, you know, wow, okay, that was all good, that was all not so good. Okay, fair enough, you know, you have always something on your plate which is good and which is not so good. It doesn't matter. But then you become aware of this, nurturing this gratitude of attitude. And that gives you again a very good feeling of, hey, I'm in charge of my life because I'm taking actions, not I'm acting, and I'm reacting all the time. It doesn't mean that things go away or things are not going. Sometimes you have phases in your life which are terrible, but you still, as long as you feel like you're in charge, then it's not destroying you. You don't destroy yourself from inside, from giving you bad feelings.
Yeah,
and that's the second part. So the working on the attitude of gratitude.
Okay, attitude of gratitude, and you let that go until you feel like you've kind of gotten to the point that you're ready to logically move on to your next phase.
And then you say, and then so because that was subconscious. The subconscious mind brought all up. There's the feelings, you know, the not the thing that you were thinking actively, the thing that came up. You have not called them, but they came up. The feelings came up. So it's subconscious. And now you go back again in your conscious mind, which is like, okay, blah, blah, blah. Now was nice. Everything okay. You feel good now. Great. And now what? Okay, now I bring the things down that I have. Right. So now for every of those quadrants, nutrition, active relaxation, movement, and mental part, heart, feeling good part, I take one or two topics out, which I say, okay, nutrition. Now, the next 3 months, I will focus on those one or two things, not focusing on too many things. Best is one for each quadrant, or maximum 2 on each quadrant.
I can see that.
Taking them out and bringing them on a paper sheet of, okay, if I want to change in nutrition, whatever it is, just saying something.
Eat less sugar or less refined carbs,
eat less sugar.
Eat less sugar.
Say that, okay, what does that mean to me? Eat less sugar doesn't mean I should not eat any sugar at all, or should I eat, or how much should, so I need to be specific.
Okay.
I need to really
quantify what that means. Yes.
Quantify what that means. Eat less sugar. It doesn't help me anything. So I need to know, okay, I'm not eating sugar during the week. I eat sugar on the weekend only.
Yeah.
Like making really a proper rule. It's like, because you need to talk to yourself sometimes, or if I'm saying talking to yourself means like your conscious mind needs to talk to your subconscious mind.
Yes.
Because your subconscious mind is the worker who makes it happen. And the conscious mind, it's like the captain.
We can justify two things after the fact if we're not specific about it. And then it's also hard to measure. So when you go back in 3 months' time and you do the plus and minuses, you're like, okay, I 80% of the time I didn't eat sugar during the week.
Genau.
Okay, that's because pretty good. Then, 20% of the time I fell off, but I'm okay with that. I mean, in theory.
Exactly. Then you really see, okay, what have I done and what have I achieved it or not? And then you can see the measurements, you can see the results based on your numbers. It's really a calculation thing, because you write down 5 days a week, no sugar, 2 times a week sugar. And that makes a month, 20 days, no sugar, 2, 4, 6, maybe 7 days with sugar, and you can calculate it on 3 months, and then you have the actual numbers on the back, and you can and you can check that, and you do the same thing with your movement, and the same thing with active relaxation, and with mental thing, with the emotional things. So you do the same thing, you put them out and put them on a piece of paper, really writing the weekly structure, like as I do for my
kids. Very
specifically. For my kids, I do that sometimes. I take a paper, I did it for breakfast, for example, because I want to change the routine for breakfast for them. So I took the piece of paper and I involved them. I said to them, listen, now write down every morning what we want to have for breakfast. And of course, I tweaked it a little bit.
Encouraged them on
that I make sure that it's not like Nutella every morning, so that it's really kind of something different. Yeah. I said, like, listen, guys, Nutella you can keep on the weekend, but during the week, let's have something really healthy, good for your mind. And so we write it down and we put it on the fridge. And the same thing you can do for yourself. You just need a piece of paper and make Monday to Friday, and like a dot, morning and evening, and you fill that form now with your topics from these 4 quadrants.
Okay.
And you take now what you also do now, the best thing, you take out from that piece of paper, you put things into your diary, in your agenda. Because there are maybe also organizational things that you have to think about.
Right.
If you want to change something, let's say you want to have more steps in your life. Okay, how can you measure that? You need to measure it somehow. Maybe you need to, I don't know, maybe you need to buy one of those Apple or Fitbit or whatever watch. Whatever, you need to have something that you can measure, that you can see that, or you want to have more sleep, or you want to have more relaxation. You need to be able to measure that somehow.
What gets measured gets managed is a mantra I've always heard. And I've resisted the measuring part. I've resisted and I've really come to the conclusion that I can no longer do this, because it then means we're accountable. And on certain things, I've avoided accountability because I couldn't prove that I wasn't measuring it. But now I really, at the young age of 50, I've decided, nope, we're going to start measuring things more. And then we will manage them better.
You're exactly right. And with my young age, I also realized that I have to do things with 53, my young age. Yeah. And so I do also the micro meetings with myself, which is for myself.
Okay. So I had that question about what happens in between the big meetings. Micro meetings.
It's like every Monday morning, I want all the managers on my room to report me, hey, how did it work now so far? So every Monday morning, that's my own structure that I have.
Yeah.
Everyone could do it as they want. Every Monday morning from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock or 8:30 to 9:30, I have this little meeting with myself, which I go into my agenda, in my planning. Okay, how was it last week? What went very good? What went not as optimal? Where are the challenge this week?
Right. A birthday party, if you're not eating sugar.
For example, last week I was in Munich one day by train, and it took me forever. So I need to be aware of, okay, what's about the food? Where do I get food? And the train station, you get only crap food. How am I going to organize that? So I had to organize on Tuesday already and buy my little backpack with the right food. Otherwise, I would get stuck on that. So you need to every week, then in the beginning of the week or end of the week, you need to organize your following week. Otherwise you can screw up by little things. Or if something goes wrong, if you have thought about that in the beginning of the week, you go back on track again straight away the next day.
Right. Yeah. You're setting yourself up for success by doing that. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
interesting. And okay, so micro meetings, that's great. I mean, I can really see that when you do it like this, you are much more likely to achieve your goals. Again, whether the goals are watching more cute animal videos or the goals are more mindfulness or a nutritious goal, just that regular checking in is a huge part of that. And then I suppose you also get this good feeling if you are more often than not following through, then you're
Yeah.
going to build that self confidence and you're going to be building those new behavior and cues or new cues that lead you to the behavioral changes that you want because you're like, gosh, I feel better about myself. I went on this long train ride. I had my food ready. I
Mhm.
didn't fall by, the kiosk and grab myself
Yeah.
a Snickers bar. So that's good. And it's not that you can't ever have a Snickers bar, but again, if you're 80% or 75% of the time sticking to your plan, it's going to make
Mhm.
those other times
Mhm.
not
Yeah,
block your
exactly.
goals as much.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I think one of the most important things to realize also for every one of us, it's like that we know our past does not equal to our future
Yes.
unless we live that. We
Yes.
live there. And if we live in our past, that means mind-wise living in our past. So if you always, if things didn't work the way you want them, and your mind made like a memory of as a failure, and you keep that always as a failure, then you're always not trusting yourself to do something because you thought like, oh no, I'm trying this already since years and it doesn't never figure out and it's never working out for myself. So you should really develop the past, bring it on a paper, and the rest you should delete, because
Yeah.
the life is here and now and in your
Yeah.
future. The past is only a little bit. You should only maybe check what was good and bad, and the rest you can throw
Yeah.
away.
That's like building, yeah, your mental fitness. I think it's also a good time to point out there might be people listening, young moms or dads with young kids and feeling overwhelmed. And you really can, I think, find solutions to get this time. You can talk to your partner. You
Yeah.
can even split it with a friend. Maybe there's a friend who would swap you. So they'll take your children for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it is on, once a quarter, and you do the same for that friend. So
Yeah.
that, maybe they can have, and maybe they're not doing the same exercise as you, but maybe they just want a Friday afternoon off
Yeah.
every 3 months. So they don't necessarily have to be doing the
Yeah.
meeting with themselves.
Exactly.
So you really can, utilize community, it's just so important to put yourself first so that you can, yeah, live a happier, more fulfilling life. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do is
Yeah.
put systems in place so that we can really enjoy and get the most out of this
Yeah.
amazing one shot that we really all know about at life, right? We hope
Yeah.
there's something else after, but we don't know. Yeah, I mean, not
Yeah, the
really.
only thing we know, it's we on one time you were born and then one time you will go, and we don't
Right.
know exactly the the
Yeah.
length of that, and that's for sure. But of one is definitely true. So we will not get 1,000 years old, for sure, not 1,000, and also not
No.
500 years, and also not 200 years, and maybe if you're very, very lucky, you get 100 years, but most probably, I don't know, between 60 and 80, or between 60 and 100, so let's say whatever it is.
Well,
And
I interview a lot of people that would say we can get to 120, but we're certainly, not
you
going to
could,
get
I
to
mean,
200, right?
like from the body wise, they found out the physicians find out that body wise, you can get quite good 120.
Yeah.
120, it's not a problem for the body. The
Yeah.
point is, if we toxic, if we have too much toxics on our body, or if you
Right.
do the wrong thing, like a car, a car you can have a car till 200, 300, 400, 500,000
Yeah.
kilometers. But of course, if you're not doing regular the service, you have
Yeah.
to, you
It's not
can
going to
throw it
last
away.
you.
It's not going to last.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with our body.
So we're coming up to our hour, and I think
Mhm.
we should try and keep it in these segments because we've given so much good information, and it's time to kind of absorb it. I wanted to read out a little statistic because I do love my statistics. The personal development industry is set to grow to 56 billion in annual revenues by 2027, and it's somewhere around 11 billion. I was doing the research on this, and it actually, funny enough, decreased during the pandemic, which I was a bit surprised about, but maybe because people just couldn't face anything other than sort of somehow surviving, that personal development kind of took a pause, but it kind of feels like it's coming back again. And I just see it everywhere. Maybe I'm biased because it's an echo chamber of the people I follow on Instagram and Facebook and things like that. But the personal development includes coaching, training, ebooks, growth, Brene Brown. Are you familiar with Brene Brown?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, she's amazing. Glennon Doyle, another female sort of author that really, I don't know, she's just so powerful with her words and cutting out the bullshit and getting to the point is just unbelievable. But so a lot of people are out there taking Brene Brown specifically, would not call herself any sort of a psychologist or psychiatrist or therapist. She's a behavioral therapist and research. There's not therapist. Sorry. She's a behavioral researcher, and she researches everything and around emotions. And it's fascinating because some of the things that she said are, you can't be brave. You can never be brave, truly brave. Like, let's say a warrior. We have this idea of people being brave that are strong and throw themselves in front of cars without also being vulnerable. That you cannot have both. And she's tested this by interviewing generals, 4-star generals, and she's advised 4-star generals and corporate CEOs. And so all of this around understanding our psyche, which is no easy task, kind of is such a fascinating space, and it's a growing area. So just from the Wealth Alchemist, talking about taking care of ourselves personally, but also looking at how our financial health, what are areas that are growing, what are ways that we can look at this from a portfolio perspective. These are areas that are really growing significantly, big revenue sources. So I thought I would just mention that in kind of closing. Okay. The last thing you have to do is to suggest or let people know if there's anything, what you would recommend the action takeaway from this one for either our next series or just taking action from this one topic.
What I would do, I would really set myself, I would take out now the calendar and I just mark one of the days in, not thinking too much theory, and also get rid of the thing of I don't have time for that. So just taking out
do it.
Just do it, taking out the agenda, put the date in and just try it and see how it goes.
Listen to the rest of the podcast and then open up your calendar immediately. Yeah. And then put those dates in. I'm going to do that, people, by the way. I'm going to do that.
Very good. I will.
Yeah. You've already done it.
Yeah.
You can now go have a coffee after the podcast or tea, a black tea.
I've already done that. Yeah.
Oh, you've already done that. Okay. Okay. And then just a quick reminder that episode 3, which will follow from a publication perspective quite quickly after we publish episode 2, is going to be setting the right goals, giving a voice to our fears, and talking a little bit about, those setting the achievable goals that we talked about, and also the power of coaching, influence, I guess, some other tips and tricks that you've done. And we'll try and get granular so that we're not focusing on just the bigger idea of goal setting, but actually granular micro decisions and actions you can make that will help you get to whatever you want to go.
Turning intention into reality.
There we go.
What
cool.
I would say.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Good.
Well, another good episode of action and information and activating gratitude as well in our 4 quadrants. I may even make up a template of what you've said and try and put that on my website
Very good.
People could just simply download it, just to
Great.
remove one little step for people and help them on their next path of setting their calendar appointment.
Yes, cool. Very good.
Thank you for your time again, Stefan. And we will be back with episode 3 shortly.
Thank you for having me here, and I'm looking forward to that goal setting. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.